some prints falling down from Rod, from David, from mine, from Uncle.
Oh yeah.
No, nobody happened with mine at the last exhibition with 100 prints. No problem with the falling down. But now I think it's the change of the weather. Is what happened, but maybe problems with the wall, the humidity or similar. But no bad. That's all. And I put the slideshow with all the peaks of the challenge of the year, about 1,100 peaks. No bad. Frank, I got the money for the book from Pedro.
Okay. And he has his book. He took it with him.
Yes. He has his book. He gave me 20 euros.
Okay. So I think that everybody has their book now except for Trevor. I'm going Wednesday or Thursday, so I can take one home with me to be 100% sure that
Morning.
I have an extra copy left for you.
I'm coming out on the 19th of this month, so a week on Friday, and I should easily see Emilio sometime during that.
Oh, there are the books are.
I have a spare book. I have a couple of spare books.
We can leave.
The books are books from the gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And use them. By the way, yesterday all people went out and who collect all the empty bottles and the snacks and the other things. We're going to do it. Yes, and the glasses and the. Oh.
I guess you had to do it, no?
Yes, and to put the projector and to put the prints and to put the lamps and to do the poster and.
Well done,
the club.
Emilio.
Not the club.
But it was a nice, the exhibition, and the exhibition is very interesting, I think, and very good.
Yes, I think yes. Well, the people out enjoy the exhibition. They say that it was very good. It's a variety of styles. Yes, very good. I will post later the pics from yesterday on the Facebook and the website. I will send to Frank.
Okay. There's already a section on the website with the photos I took yesterday, and I will add the photos that Emilio and other people will send me. And I believe Emilio also had a text, and he can send that too, and then I will put that up on the website too. So for those who have missed it or want to have some kind of idea,
I think we should photograph each individual photograph, and place that on the website too. So we have the full exhibition on the website.
Yes,
it's a good idea, Rod, I think. Yeah.
Huh?
It's a good idea.
Yeah. I was starting to do it yesterday, but then it got busy and But I think there was few people. Donny was taking pictures of all the works as well. Yeah.
Or alternatively, people can send me the original JPEGs of their photos that are on the exhibition.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, that's actually a better idea. Yeah.
So I will take it that most people have my email address, and I will put it on Facebook too. This after the meeting.
Okay.
And then if Dean is going to do the critique, we can do a presentation now with the critique and the picks of everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said he would do something like last year. I said I suggested that we do a presentation mid-month because I don't think we have one, do we?
No.
No. But he's not sure. He has to go to England for a funeral. So I don't know. I'll talk to him and see if we can get him to do a video or something or a recorded program, yeah, that we can show. Right.
Hey, Björn, are you here or are you in Norway?
No, I'm in Norway.
Norway.
And it's ice on the car.
Already. Wow.
That's also very nice.
It's not good, is it, Bjorn?
No. I was supposed to be in Spain a week ago, but the COVID has increased in Norway, so I thought it's better being here.
Yeah. Well, it seems almost normal here, I tell you.
Yeah.
You don't need a mask except for when you can't social distance, and nobody was wearing masks well, there were a few people wearing masks in the exhibition, but just a few. Yeah.
Well, there are some cities in Norway that it's a big increase, and they have started now using masks again.
Yeah. Well, I think in Mahaka there are 0 cases. Yeah.
I think yes, the moment.
At the moment, yeah. Or maybe there are 2 cases, but nothing new, no new ones.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, Trevor, you have all the pictures and the critique ready and everything, yeah?
Yes. Yep.
Well, I
Are
think
we ready to fly? So we've got a few missing from our usual audience. But,
yes, we do.
Hopefully, they can catch up on the recording.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's only 13 at the moment. There's usually at least 20.
Yes.
So Angel is not here. Did he turn up?
Jean
last
and
night?
Harry. Oh, Angel's here. He's just coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Harry and Jean are away.
Yes.
They won't be coming.
Taking pictures.
They asked us to record the presentation because they couldn't assist to the meeting.
Right.
Hi Ángel, ¿cómo estás? How are you?
Hola, bien, un poco mejor, creo.
¿Sí?
Gracias.
¿Has
Good
estado,
morning.
estado mal?
¿Eh?
¿Has estado mal? You
Sí,
not been
tengo un
well?
poco de gastroenteritis, creo.
No. Joder.
Mañana iré a ver al médico.
Ah. Suerte.
Gracias. ¿Ha ido bien la inauguración?
Muy bien, la verdad.
Me alegro.
Mhm.
Una pena no haber estado.
Yeah. Ángel called me yesterday because he couldn't assist to the opening because he was not good with the stomach. And then we are asking now him he's better or not.
Thank you, Emilio.
You're welcome.
I'm a little better, I think.
Mhm. Okay, Trevor.
We're ready to go. I'll share screen.
You can share screen, yeah.
Right. I'm starting with just a look at the files, because one of the things that's come through looking at some of the images is that the authors are not necessarily doing themselves justice, because their images are over compressed. What I've got here is just an extract of some of the people that have put images in and the file sizes I've highlighted. And typically we're looking at somewhere around 2 to 6 or 7 megabytes. But as you can see, there's a few here that are just tens or 100 kilobytes. And when you compress your image to that extent, the result is that you lose a vast amount of detail. Yeah. And that is such a shame, because some of these images are really good compositionally or artistically, but they are let down by being hit too hard with compression, and you're losing the detail, and it's not helping yourself. So technologically now, there's no problem in having 10 megabyte images. We're not short of space. Transmission speeds are good. So I would suggest, if you can, don't compress the images as much as some people have done, and you can get a lot more out of it, and it'll certainly look better. Anyway, into the actual individual images. The first one is a Milky Way shot, and the author here has captured a large amount of stars. They've even captured a galaxy towards the lower right, and they've used tracking to track the actual stars. You can see that because the foliage and the horizon have blurred a little bit in the bottom right. I'm assuming that's the case and not wind. It certainly looks like it's a tracked image. For me, there's a couple of things. First of all, I feel that the image is oversaturated. We've not got a true representation of the colours of the stars in the sky. I think this has just been hit too hard with a saturation slider. Secondly, the horizon isn't level. I know you could argue it's on a hillside, but I don't believe it is, because in Spain you don't get the Milky Way coming down vertically to the horizon. It comes down at an angle. Now, if the camera had been held perpendicular to the horizon, then that Milky Way would have gone very nicely from the lower right-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner, creating a nice diagonal. And I think that would have been aesthetically much better than a vertical one straight up the middle of the frame. Now, this shot I really like. One of the things that I've done in doing this critique is I look at each image, I study the image, I make my assessment and my opinions, and then in some cases, just to try and confirm whether I was right or not, I have a look at the actual file EXIF data to see whether I was right. And in this case, I was. Because what I really like about this is it's a long exposure, which has blurred the reflections in the water to beautiful vertical streaks. And it's a very small aperture. That small aperture has created the starburst effect from the diaphragm on each of those lights on the bridge. When I checked on the EXIF data, the author has used f22 for this image. In terms of positioning of the bridge, I think it's excellent. You've got the full span of the bridge in, you've got that nice mountain in the background lit up, you've got the bridge going across the lower third and a lot of not quite negative space because it's got the cloud and lit up by the lights from the light pollution in the upper third. But it's really well balanced and I really like this image. A couple of minor points. Firstly, the very bottom left corner has got a little bit of the embankment and some block in it. It would be very easy just to select around that quite roughly and then press content aware fill and it would disappear. And I think to remove that distraction would have been good. The second point is, I know it's a time exposure, but there looks to be a little bit of banding in the light polluted sky. I think this might just be either from pulling it a little bit too much or JPEG compression, but it's only minor, it only detracts marginally from the image. And I like this image a lot. Now this image has got wow factor. It's a great composition. The author has found a location where you've got an interesting foreground. You've been able to get some water, so get some reflection from the Aurora Borealis. And in terms of camera positioning, using this tall upright has worked very well. And the Aurora has obliged in producing a nice sort of curved shape, taking you from the image at the bottom and expanding into the two upper corners of the frame in a nice arc. So compositionally, this is superb. For me, like the first image, I just feel this is again a bit oversaturated. I would have liked to have seen this with slightly more natural colours than the heavy impact of the saturated colour, but a very good photo. This one is similar in a way to the first image. It actually records more stars and is the galactic centre. But the same things apply. It is, for me, oversaturated. That light pollution that you're seeing at the bottom is so bright and rich and orange that it actually dominates and distracts the viewer from the stars in the galaxy above. Again, tilting the camera away from upright again has left a bit of a problem. You can see from the terracing that it's sloping out downhill to the bottom right-hand corner of the frame. So better camera positioning and less saturation would help. But it's a good capture of the stars. It probably, when you've got this amount of light pollution, it's probably worth moving to a darker site. There are darker sites around where you can capture the centre of the galaxy without quite so much light pollution. But a nice shot. These were Andy Funnels. We know these are Angels because he has his name in the bottom left-hand corner. Here we've got a typical Spanish street study. And what makes this image is the light and where the light is coming from. You've got the blue light in the modern wall at the right and the warm light in the old walls to the left. And the fact that you can't see either of the lamps and you're just looking at the illumination creates the mood to this image. And this image is about mood. I like the effect, but as I mentioned at the beginning, the JPEG compression and the image size, you haven't got the full benefit of what you saw when you took the photograph. But nicely done. Well, this is an attempt at a night sky shot. We have a good strong diagonal between the trees, but we have no detail in the trees whatsoever. And we have a source of light from a village down in the lower right-hand corner at the end of that diagonal. It's been taken at a good time in that there is a little bit of blue still in the sky, because if you'd have tried this at full darkness, you wouldn't have much of a silhouette. You would have just had a few scattering of stars, and it would have been lost. So it was a good time to take it. However, again, the compression and the graininess of this is perhaps as dominant as the image components. And overall, it's not as exciting an image as one which might have more detail in the sky. I like this one. Clearly, he's spinning some fireworks around. It's done as a silhouette. We've got sparks flying everywhere. And the good thing here, Angel, is you've done this in monochrome. And there was a great temptation, I guess, because I assume some of these sparks and flares are coloured, to have done it in colour. But if you look to the shadow area to the left over here, you'll see a lot of people with shirts. And in colour, you probably find you've got red stripes, a green shirt, bright yellow, all kinds of distractions. And by breaking it down to black and white, you're simply looking at the pattern. And you don't really notice the fact that there is a crowd behind this performer. So I think this one works very well indeed. Again, you've got a little bit of over compression and over sharpening because you've got a black line, a heavy black line around all these sparks. It would have been better to have been less compressed, but photographically, I think this one is extremely good. You may just want it to have cropped in ever so slightly. I think cutting into something like there or there might give just marginally more impact. I'm sorry on this, I can't crop the sides, but you get the drift. But it's a nice shot, like that one, I go. Now this is one of those photographs where you see something with your naked eye and it looks really interesting, and then you try to photograph it and you realize that the dynamic range of the camera is not as big as the dynamic range of the human eye. So Ankel has spotted the interesting textures in these rocks, and he's seen that and thinks, yes, there's a good photograph there, and he's right, there is. However, because the highlights are all burnt out and the shadows are blocking up on the right-hand side, you're not able to portray what you originally saw. In order to get around this, with a camera on a tripod, you can do either exposure blending or HDR, and take two photographs, one exposed for the highlights and one on the left, and one exposed for the deeper shadow areas on the right, and then simply put them back together. Now you can do that in Photoshop almost with a single click of merge to HDR, or you can do it with a luminosity mask, or you can just simply do it manually. It's quite an easy thing to do, and it would have kept the detail in the highlights and kept the detail in the shadows. On this exposure, you've gone for the shadows. Now you've gone for a landscape crop letterbox format, and I think that works well for it. So that was good, but need a little bit more detail in the highlights. This was Angel, and I like the cover image there, Angel. That's nice.
Thank you.
I have to say, I believe this one has been put into a challenge before. I might be wrong, in which case somebody else has put in an almost identical image, but I do think we have seen this one several years ago.
No, different image, different angle.
Same location.
Yeah.
Right. Very similar to the previous one then. Right.
Yes.
We now know it's Ashton's. This very pleasing composition, full of interest. We've got the boats leading you down the river, the bridge, which is an interesting iron structure, and a lot of urban detail on the left-hand side. For me, I would actually like to see a little bit more over here on the right-hand side. Where the bridge is coming down, I'd like to have seen this boat in its entirety. I know that means with this viewpoint, you would have lost some of that building. But it's very easy, if you've got the camera on the tripod, to take the first shot and then just move the camera ever so slightly to get a bit more of the image in, and then just do photo merge in Photoshop or any of the stitching packages you've got free on the internet, just to put the two images back together as a stitched panorama. But I wouldn't want to lose that building top left, but I am a little bit at a loss as to not seeing a bit more on the right hand side of this image. But it's a nice sharp image, good detail throughout, lots there to interest the viewer. Now this one has had me a bit puzzled for a while, and my instinct was that the sky has been put in on this one, and also it didn't look truly night. I was a bit baffled and confused. I believe this is Avila, and having been there and done night photography in Avila, I know how the walls are illuminated, and this somehow just didn't seem quite right. We've got lights in windows, but no street lights are on. There's no buildings being lit up. The street lights here are not lit. And if we actually look at the illumination on the wall, we've got some of the wall seemingly illuminated, but also what's behind it is illuminated. So I think there's been quite a bit of dodging and burning going on and effects. So I think my instinct on this one was that this was a sort of a dusk time shot when some lights are just starting to come on in properties, and a sky has been added. I thought it might be an internet sky. However, we've got satellite trails showing it to be real. So I was a bit puzzled by that. And I'm also a bit puzzled by what these sorts of things are. So if it was an internet sky, I thought it wouldn't have that. So I was a bit baffled.
Yeah.
Then I looked at the exit. I looked at the EXIF data, and this exposure is 1/125th of a second. And at 1/125th of a second, you're not going to get a sky like that, and you're not going to get the detail in the town like that at night. So I came to the conclusion this was manufactured.
Yeah, total hands up. I put it in and I thought, I won't get that past Trevor. It was probably taken about 11:30 in the daytime. It's a total fraud.
So what's in the windows is either been manipulated or
the whole thing is.
These sorts of things are fun. They're different. They're fun to do, and great for trying something different. And you have got a very different image. It's not night photography.
In the bright midday sun, I just played around with it,
and that's a good thing to do. Yeah. Where did you get the sky?
Oh, that's from Scotland somewhere, I think.
I came to the conclusion it was real. But it's not night photography, but you've ended up with an interesting image, and you've got something out of what was poor lighting conditions, and you've made an image, and that's commendable. And it's good to see people trying different things. I like that. Now I really like this shot. Now it could be indoors or it could be outside by night, and I definitely suspect the latter, and therefore I'm more than happy regarding this night photography. This has been taken with a wide aperture to throw the background out of focus, and you've got a beautiful out of focus background, absolutely perfect. And the red colours in the background match the red colour of the logo on the guy's shirt. But altogether, this is great. Very often when you've got somebody wearing glasses like this, looking at a music sheet, he'll have his head slightly down and the glasses will probably cut through his eyes. Here he's actually looking down and you can see his eyes through the glasses. So this is a good shot. You might just try to lighten the eyes ever so slightly, but if you do it too much, it's going to look artificial. You might also lighten some of the trumpet end of the trombone, just to give a little bit more sparkle there, but not so much that it would detract from his face, which is the main subject. In terms of darkening and lightening, interesting that there's more light on the face than there is on the hand. The hand has probably been burnt in a little bit. Otherwise, you can find that the fingers can very easily be distracting. So this has been a very well managed shot. Really like it. Well done, Ashton. And this one I love. This is great. If you look at this image of kids young people having fun on the dodgems, if you take out the two girls in the dodgem at the front, there's virtually no action in the rest of the image. People are just sort of sat there in their cars going round. Okay, the girl in the middle is smiling, and it wouldn't be a picture. But this makes the entire picture and contrasts their excitement, the turn into the frame, with everything else around them. The colours are great. Brilliant shot, Ashton. Really like that. And we know who it is, and that's a nice dusk shot owl box. Very, very nice.
Yes, owl box.
Now this is a night photo that is full of colour. Tower Bridge in London. You see it's a longish exposure. We've got nice car trails taking you from the bottom right-hand corner down through the arches. We've got the lovely curves taking you down. So everything leads in to focusing on this tower. Now, unfortunately, that tower isn't quite vertical. And we've got a little bit of perspective control. The stanchions here are perfectly vertical, but the left-hand side isn't quite so. That could just have done with pulling the top corner across a bit. You don't want to move this light here and have that half in, half out. So this is where the warp tool in Photoshop comes in very useful. It's under Edit Transform, where you've got perspective and other variants, but there is warp, and you can actually move part of the center of the image and leave the edge of the image in position. It's got to be done carefully, but I think that would have helped with this image. Somebody's got the microphone on. I love the colours on this one, but I'm a little puzzled. A couple of things. First of all is focus. Bless you. If you look at the lamp here in the top left corner and the detail here, it's absolutely pin sharp. But if you look at the tower at the back, it's less than pin sharp. So I think the point of focus is perhaps too close to the near point. We could have done with a focus somewhere around about this position. So both the foreground and the background of this image would have been sharp. As it stands, I think it's the focus point is somewhere around about these railings here and this light. So that is rather sad. Secondly, if you look into the sky, there's a whole load of spots. Now that's either fine raindrops on the lens or a lot of dust on the lens. It's something that I've found has spoilt one or two of my pictures by accident. But if it is dust and nobody has got a brolly up and it doesn't look too wet, just make sure when you're doing night photographs, when there's bright lights and a lot of black, give your lens or your filter over your lens a wipe to get rid of dust spots. But very nice composition to this. I really like the composition and very nice colours. Somebody gets around a bit. This isn't Spain or the UK. I don't know where it is. I won't ask. You can tell me afterwards. But it's a very competent cityscape. What I like about it is we've got this particular feature nicely in the middle. We've gone for a time of day where there is still some detail in the sky. For me, perhaps a little bit too much so. Maybe 5 minutes later, you would have had still detail in the sky, but slightly darker. Or drop the exposure of it by 1 stop. I think it would take 1 stop less exposure. But I like the tall building on the left, the tall building on the right, and a sort of a curve in that skyline. to a minimum point above this. The foreground is good. Maybe you could just darken it a little bit, but keeping the interest in there. So probably 1 stop or half stop less exposure. And one other change I would make, I don't know how much of this building goes on. If it's substantial, then I would have just taken a trim off the left. Because I would like a symmetry between this. We've got the whole of the building on the left, but we haven't got the whole of the building on the right. That sort of is a slight imbalance. If the building ended here, just off the edge of the frame, then maybe include the whole of the building and a strip of sky. Alternatively, just trim the left so that it has that equivalence to the right-hand edge of the frame. But lovely colours in this. Maybe slightly oversaturated, but not much, like that. Now, I could be wrong, but this looks like Southern Hemisphere sky rather than Northern Hemisphere sky. I don't recognise the particular constellations here. But the author here has gone out with a superb sky as a backdrop. I think this is lit by ambient light from behind. I could be wrong, it could be lit by the author with a torch or other luminary, but I suspect it's a strong light source behind the author. We've put the tree in an excellent position on the right-hand lower third. We've got plenty of detail in the receding trees, and this little bit of light pollution here on the horizon, I feel actually adds an element as it picks out this particular tree. It's important, if you'd have hidden that tree by moving a pace or two to the right, I don't think it would be as good. I think that creates depth to your image. Two things. With a light source straight behind you rather than off to the side, you've not got quite as much modelling. It's like trying to take portraits with on-camera flash. It's not the most flattering lighting. It's probably on a camp because we've got a couple of tents here. I would have tried to reduce the contrast in those to make them a little bit less noticeable. But overall, I think the biggest change I would make is the colour balance. You're in an area where you're lighting this with a warm light source, and you've got a sky which is red. I would take that down to neutral grey-black, or even to slightly blue. And as a result, the whole of this image, I think, will be transformed and much more vibrant. So go away, same image, have a play with the colour balance. But nice composition, nice sky. I like this one when I saw this. It's almost glowing lava on that wall behind these silhouettes. And it's picked out the people in silhouette with a great deal of detail. It's very nicely seen, and I particularly like the woman on the right. She's in profile, and the light is picking out all of her features, and you can see her face in profile. Sadly, the woman that's more central on the left, she's facing away from you, so you can't see the face. You've got a big black area in her back. You know she's got her arms behind her back, but it's all blocked up. So that, unfortunately, is a bit of a block in the line of vision. But the sad thing about this one is there's camera shake. There's a double image. If you actually zoom in, you can see it on the hair up here, you've got the double profile, and on the wall, you've got the double profile. It could well be that the camera was on a tripod and you press the shutter with your finger, and you just got that initial movement of the camera from your finger. That may not be the reason, but if it is on a tripod and that's what you've done, much better to use a cable release, and that always avoids camera shake from pressing the shutter. But I love the colours. I love this woman on this side and the glow that you've got off the wall. And I'm not at all worried by the fact that this is all burnt out beyond 255 on the white scale. Nice. And this is Dave Hornsey.
Trevor, that was excellent critique. Completely, good spots on all of your points. And I struggled with the white balance, as you spotted on that the sky and the tree photos. So I'll have another go at that white balance. Well done.
Cheers, Dave. If you struggle with white balance, another trick what I use is I forget the white balance adjustments, and I go and make a levels layer, and I take the levels layer normally shows the RGB line, but you can click separately on red, green and blue. And in a situation like that, I would take a levels layer and go through each of those channels, the red channel, the green channel and the blue channel, and holding down the Alt key, just move the black point till the blacks start to appear in each of those channels separately. And then do the same for each of those channels by moving the white point. And if it doesn't look quite right, then you can go back and make a small adjustment to what you've done. But I find that often gives you a very good white balance when simply adjusting the white balance in Lightroom or Photoshop doesn't normally do the trick. So give that one a try as well. Right, this image, my first thought on this, is it really a night shot or is it just an underexposed daytime image? But as you look, you can see light on the street lights here and a bit of lit walls. So yes, it definitely is a nighttime shot. I think the shadows have been pulled a little bit much. As a result, we've got some very, very strong noise appearing in the white walls, some colour noise. And I think it's probably just been pulled a little bit beyond what it should have been. And as a result, it creates an illusion that it's an underexposed daytime shot, when it certainly isn't. But it's a very nice composition on this village. You've got the village at the bottom, trimmed a little bit on the right-hand side. I might have wanted to see the end of the village, if that was possible. With the statue in a lovely warm light, looking down over the village, and a lot of nice rock structure here on the left. So it's a very attractive village in a pretty setting. I can see you wouldn't want to tilt the camera to the right because you would lose the edge of this rock structure, and I think that is an important element. So I very much like the way it has been composed, albeit just zoom out a touch to show a little bit more on the right. But I wouldn't have pulled the shadows quite as hard, and I think it would have looked a little more natural. And maybe just a tiny bit later in the day, when the lights on the walls just are able to illuminate the walls more rather than these being illuminated by the ambient dusk sky. Okay. Now this is a great study. We've got the fountain with a nice exposure to be able to show blurring of the water jets and the spray turning into a mist, and these three ladies having a nice old gossip underneath the light. If it was just the fountain, it would be boring, but those three ladies are what make the picture. They are such an important element. I was actually quite surprised that I looked at the EXIF data on this one, and it's something like 4 seconds. I can remember 5 seconds. And for 5 seconds exposure, I would have thought these women would have been gossiping away and you wouldn't have got them sharp. So you've managed to pull off a small miracle in getting the women reasonably sharp with a 5 second exposure. I very much like this composition. The only thing is, I think this on this left-hand side over here, this really isn't adding anything very much. And you've probably got enough space on the right for a bit more. So you could have swung the camera around a little bit more or moved your feet another yard to the left. So these would have been more over here and probably a little bit more angled in towards the fountain as a result. It's only a very minor point, but perhaps that, or now even a slight crop left, slight crop top might, to some extent, create a similar effect. But very well seen and made by this group of ladies. I would have just been tempted to have desaturated the red on that 3% sign behind there, just so it doesn't pull your eye quite so much. It's only a minor point, but nice photo. I like this one. This just for information, I looked up the dictionary definition of night. The dictionary definition of night is the period when the sun is below the horizon, dusk to dawn. So it doesn't matter how much light there is, it's still classed as night. Well, this one is just before sunrise in the morning, I would expect, looking at the angle. I don't think it's a sunset picture. What I like about it is it's extremely well suited to the letterbox format, the panoramic view. The Chiringuito has been placed in a perfect position. You've got 1/3 beach and sea, 2/3 sky, and there's more room on the right hand side where the light is coming in the sky. But for me, the key thing about this is the chairs. The green of the chairs complements the magenta-ish pink tones of the sky. I think if those chairs had not been piled up here, the image would be less striking than it currently is. And I really like that one. Very nice image. Well done. Well, this is a panoramic shot. It's taken at an excellent time of day. The sun has just gone down. You've got nice tones in the sky. I unfortunately can't understand quite what has happened, because we've got a fairly sharp or a very sharp outline to Mahaca Pueblo and the hillside. We've got a fairly sharp house down here, but the rest of this image is a complete blur. And I don't know, I can't understand what has caused this. I cannot offer an explanation. Also, if you look into the sky here, there's an awful lot of colour blocking, and it looks like extremely hard JPEG compression. So severe, I think it sadly ruins what would have been a very good image. You've got a nice viewpoint, nice sky, nice colours, but the detail and compression, and for some reason, I don't know, explain this at the end, why that's blurred. I can't explain it myself, sadly. That's Dave Bryant. Dave.
Yeah, that was handheld, and actually it was in the morning, as I remember. I think the dog wanted to go out and got me up, so I took that shot of Mahaka Pueblo. Well, I think I don't know. I can't explain that either, I'm afraid. But it was handheld. I'm just wondering, and I think I tried to lose the noise that was there. Would that explain it?
It could be from brutal noise suppression, yes. Like that could possibly cause that. It depends on the algorithm. But it's a shame because it's a lovely composition.
Right, well, thank you. Thank the dog for that then.
Well, next time the dog wants a walk, go to the same place and
let's have another go.
Carry a little mini tripod with you.
Yeah,
it's worth having a small mini tripod. Now, there's no problem with sharpness of the houses in Mahaka on this shot. This is bitingly sharp. When I saw this, I immediately thought this is a montage, but it's actually a very well done montage. The reason is that moon to me just looked overly large. And I'm convinced this actually is a montage, but it doesn't matter how you produce the final image. It's what is the final image that we need to evaluate. And for me, this final image is very good indeed. It's a location that I know of. I've taken shots of Mahaka Pueblo from here, but the village is perfectly exposed. You've got lighting from all the building lights, the street lights, yet you've got detail still in the shadows that are not fully lit. So the time of day that this was taken, or the time of dusk that this was taken, is absolutely perfect. You've got detail down in the foliage down here. So yeah, that's good. The road leads you in and round into the image. So it's a very, very good image. Only very minor points of critique. There's a bit of appears to be dodging or poor blending going on just here, because you've got a lightening into the sky. And also just here, there's an artifact come in the sky. So it's not quite a perfect sky blend, but it's an extremely good one. And I like the image overall. Now, I know who took this because I think I was with him when he took it. And this is the Torre Piriliku beyond Macenas. And here you get a good dark sky with very limited light pollution near the horizon. You've got the Milky Way running at a nice diagonal, which is the natural angle for the Milky Way in Spain. you've got an artificial satellite going through the frame, or a couple of artificial satellites. You can debate whether you leave those in or you take those out. They are there, they are part of the photograph. Other people may say they're a distraction, therefore they should be removed. I'll leave it up to the individual, and I'm not going to cast a view on that. In terms of the colours are very good. And the overall composition is pretty good as well. The tower's a little bit central in the frame. You might have taken a frame that cut in a bit to move the tower slightly across, or moved yourself so that the tower was a little bit more to the right. I think that would have been a preference, but it depends on what viewpoint is physically attainable. The downside on this one is the compression. There's obviously a lot of noise in taking this, as this looks like a single exposure image rather than a multi-image stack. And as a result, you've got to use some noise compression to get rid of a lot of the sensor noise. In the sky, that's been handled fairly well. And I don't think the noise compression has damaged the sky excessively. It's not quite as punchy as some images, but it's not a problem. The problem lies in the land, and I'll just zoom into the land. The compression here, or the noise reduction here, has really lost all the detail in here. We've got it almost to a posterization, and here we've just got a brown blur. And I think you would have been better with less noise reduction and a noisier but more detailed foreground, because this almost looks like a line drawing rather than a photograph. If that noise compression has been done post-capture, it's probably worth going back and hitting it with a slightly smaller hammer than you have done. An alternative way at capture is to take two photographs. If you've got the camera on a tripod doing this, take one exposure or several exposures for the night sky, and you can stack those in sequator, and then take a single exposure at a low ISO, but a long exposure of the foreground, which will then show much more detail, and then you can put the two back together again post-capture in Photoshop. Now this is another photograph where I know the author who took it, because it's another occasion that I was with him. And compare this one, which is a picture of the total eclipse of the moon,